Merry tidings, my precious flock. The holidays are drawing closer with every day, and today I have a really nostalgic throwback for you all to enjoy. Yes, I understand that there are many beautiful winter holidays coming up, including Yule, Christmas, Kwanzaa, St. Nicholas Day, Hanukkah, and Boxing Day, just to name a few. So I can totally understand if some of you have never even seen this movie I'm about to talk about, let alone heard of it. But I am hoping to include all of you in on this adventure. Today's podcast is going to be about a classic Christmas movie called The Year Without a Santa Claus. So if you don't recognize that name, climb on up into the sleigh because we are going to see my friends Snow Miser and Heat Miser as we celebrate this movie's iconic 50th anniversary. Woohoo! So before we get into it, I just want to quickly say happy 50th birthday, Year Without a Santa Claus. You guys more than deserve this. So let's get nostalgical, shall we? The Year Without a Santa Claus is a stop-motion film that debuted on December 10th of 1974 on the ABC network as a television movie special under the Rankin Bass Productions name. This movie was based off the 1956 book The Year Without a Santa Claus by Phyllis McGinley. The Year Without a Santa Claus has a wonderful narration, which is recorded by Shirley Booth, who also doubles as the voice of Mrs. Claus. What many do not realize is that we had a star-studded cast in this movie. Aside from Shirley Booth, who did this movie as her final acting credit before retiring, we also had the legendary Mickey Rooney, as well as Dick Shawn and George S. Irving, portraying parts in it too. Mickey Rooney was cast as the legendary icon Santa Claus, while Dick Shawn was cast as Snow Miser and George S. Irving was cast as Heat Miser. So I am sure that there are a lot of you who've seen this movie countless times, just like I have. But if you are amongst that group of people that haven't seen it at all, you haven't seen it in quite a few years, or you've only seen it once, please forgive me because I'm going to quickly shift into jumping right into the plot. As the movie starts, Mrs. Claus begins narrating the story, and she begins to tell us about the time the world literally almost never had a Christmas. She explains that Santa had fallen severely ill and wasn't quite in the condition to make his annual Christmas run. Throughout the movie, we learn that she enlisted two of Santa's elves, Jingle and Jangle, to find a town that had Christmas cheer in hopes that they could help convince Santa to go through with his yearly flight. Unfortunately, on the way to the town, the elves and Vixen, who was currently a baby reindeer at the time, were caught up in the never-ending feud between the Miser brothers, Snow Miser and Heat Miser. After escaping the Miser brothers' feud, they wind up in a location called Southtown, USA. Now, the funny, kind of ironic part about this whole Southtown, USA location is we never actually learn if or what state it is located in, even though through the years a lot of people have speculations. So, just wanted to put that out there. When they get to Southtown, USA, they dress poor baby Vixen as a dog to avoid trouble. But since Jingle and Jangle are easily distracted by the people's lack of care for Christmas being canceled, they never notice that poor Vixen was captured by the dog catcher. This ultimately leads to Santa basically going to Southtown, saving the day, and learning that a lot of people don't have the spirit of Christmas, and basically trying to find ways of correcting that before carrying on with his yearly flight. The Year Without a Santa Claus received an annual airing every year after its release up until 2017 through Freeform. In 2018, the uncut special began airing under the American Movie Classics as part of their Best Christmas Ever block. This special also aired under the Warner Brothers' own platforms, TNT and TBS, as part of their traditional All I Watch for Christmas block. This is allegedly the only Rankin Bass special to ever air on TNT and TBS. Currently, Warner Brothers is the only known distributor for this special through ownership rights to the post-1974 Rankin Bass Productions library. The Year Without a Santa Claus was released on VHS on September 5th, 1991 by Vestron Video as part of their Christmas Classics series, which during this time was distributed by Family Home Entertainment, which is now defunct, and lost the rights to the entire Rankin Bass library in 1998. On September 2nd of 1992, Warner Home Video released A Year Without a Santa Claus on VHS as well, and released it on VHS again September 28th of 1999. Now, on October 31st of 2000, Halloween, our beloved Christmas special was released for the very first time on DVD for its 30th anniversary, and it also received a deluxe edition DVD on October 2nd of 2007. It even got a Blu-ray release on October 5th of 2010, which made history as the first ever Rankin Bass production to be released on the Blu-ray format. Even though this Christmas special gained a lot of relaunches through the years, their Halloween 2000 release did not fly solo. They included other specials like Rudolph's Shiny New Year and Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey, to keep the holidays even more interesting. December 11th of 2006, NBC premiered a live-action remake of The Year Without a Santa Claus, starring the familiar TV dad icon John Goodman of Roseanne, while many of you know him as Sully from Monsters, Inc. The live-action remake followed an almost identical plot as the original special, and received a DVD released the next day on December 12th of 2006. Quick discussion, because I am sure by now I have everybody horribly confused, and at least a few fans on the other end of this podcast that are listening in wanting to ask a dozen questions. So let's start here. Don't feel bad that you didn't know about the live action remake, because it took me many years to find out about it. I literally only found out about it maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it was for the dumbest reason ever that I found out. I'm pretty sure that I was looking up something on YouTube relating to the Year Without a Santa Claus, whether it was the Snow Miser, Heat Miser song or whatever, but that is when I saw a trailer for it, or like a clip of the live action. And the 1974 Year Without a Santa Claus stop motion is a very vivid core memory for me, Christmas movie wise, from my childhood. And it is pretty up there with respect, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and of course the animation movie Frosty the Snowman. So once I watched the little teaser sneak peek that I saw of the live action, I was very intrigued, and I can't remember if I bought it off of Amazon or eBay. It was one of the two. And I will tell you this, folks. I have never in my life regretted a purchase as much as I did when I bought that movie. When I actually popped it into my DVD player and began watching it, it was awful. It was so very awful. I feel like the person I bought it from should have paid me to watch it. It was that bad. The filming quality of the stop motion 1974 version was such decent quality compared to this that for 1974 I would have considered that 4K. Yeah, I said that. Now, the 2006 live action was worse than any, made for TV movie special that I had ever seen on public access TV. And I grew up when TVs had the bunny ears antennas on them. So it came off horribly grainy. It had very delayed audio. There was even a part where it looked like the film was malfunctioning, like in old movie theaters when the tape of the movie is actually getting ready to snap. And it kind of looked like somebody bootlegged it from a movie theater. Even though it was in an official DVD case that looked like something you would get off the Walmart shelves. So, I honestly feel like the live action movie was the worst thing they could have did for the franchise, and they should have left it alone and never done that version, because it looked like the movie only had like maybe at the most $5,000 budget wise. It was awful. Like, when I say awful, you could tell listening to things like speech and songs who was who, but because the movie was so grainy, you couldn't ever see the face of like Santa Claus or Snow Miser or Heat Miser. And when they're the Snow Miser and Heat Miser's little minions did their dances that you would have seen in the 1974 movie, it's really like elementary school style, and it's just really bad, really shoddy photography. And I feel like they would have been better off giving that project to the person who did Jim Carrey's The Grinch, and it would have been phenomenal. It was just a sad attempt to make that movie a live action, and it should have never happened. So please don't feel bad that you haven't seen it. Like I said, it's the only purchase in my life that I will continuously regret ever purchasing. Aside from the remake, we got a second round of the Miser Brothers through their spin-off sequel movie, A Miser Brothers Christmas, in 2008, which Warner Brothers Animation paired with Cup of Coffee Studios to produce. In this movie, Mickey Rooney and George S. Irving reprised their roles as Santa and Heat Miser, while the Snow Miser and Mrs. Claus were recast. Honestly, it was amazing to hear their voices again rather than a full, complete vocal recast. Respectively, Shirley Booth, who played the 1974 Mrs. Claus, began facing health decline issues in 1976, prior to her acting retirement. Allegedly, Shirley suffered from a stroke that led to mobility issues and to blindness. Her sister revealed in 1979 Shirley had broke her hip, which further restricted her mobility. Unfortunately, Shirley passed away on October 16th of 1992 at the age of 94 years young. Shirley's iconic role of Mrs. Claus was passed on, respectively, to the wonderfully talented Catherine Disher, who is best known as her role of Jean Grey in the X-Men animated series from 1992 to 1997. But I know her best as Mayor Martha Tinsdale of the Hallmark Channel series The Good Witch. Now, Shirley's original portrayal of Mrs. Claus will always be legendary or iconic or historic, however you guys want to label it. But when I found out Catherine Disher was becoming our new Mrs. Claus, I was not mad. I was actually very, very impressed with that thought. And I appreciate them taking so much time between both the Year Without a Santa Claus movie and the Miser Brothers Christmas launch or movie launch, and taking their time to carefully select these new renditions of the character, because I don't feel like they're replacements, because you can't ever really replace the originals, you know what I mean? They're the originals. So there's that. Why was the Snow Miser recast? Well, that was also for a very good reason. On April 17th of 1987, our iconic and original Snow Miser, Dick Shawn, was performing on stage at the San Diego's University of California Mandeville Hall. During this performance, he had a heart attack and collapsed face down on the stage. His audience believed that this was just a performance stunt, even though he remained motionless on the stage for some time. A stagehand had examined him and immediately called for a paramedic. And once paramedics came and began CPR, Mr. Shawn's audience was immediately asked to leave the venue. The San Diego Union announced on April 18th of 1987 that Mr. Shawn had unfortunately passed away during his performance on April 17th of 1987 from a heart attack at the age of 63. His role of Snow Miser was respectively passed on to Juan Chiarin, who is best known for his work as Raymundo the Ringmaster on Paw Patrol, the Cheetah Girls' Galleria Garibaldi's father, as well as the Ice Cream Man in Totally Spies. Again, I am grateful for our original Snow Miser, Dick Shawn. May he always rest in peace. But Juan was also a very good casting choice for this sequel, and I'm not mad at it either. In recent years, the Year Without a Santa Claus lives on through Christmas ornaments provided by Hallmark. Yes, the same Hallmark as Care Bears and Rainbow Brite are owned by. I do not have a definitive date of when these ornaments began to be published, but I do know it was at least around 2014, if not before. These ornaments are meant to be more of a collector's item rather than actual ornaments you hang on your tree. But they have many iterations of Snow Miser, Heat Miser, including but not limited to their chorus lineups, them sitting on their thrones, or being inside of hanging spinner ornaments, and more. Final thoughts. The Year Without a Santa Claus is without a doubt an iconic, legendary, and annual holiday movie festival worthy movie, despite the fact that it is stop motion based and many people are not big fans. But if you haven't seen it this holiday season, please, I advise you to do so. Even if it's a once in a lifetime watch for you, it's so worth it. Alright, my precious dark flock, thank you for tuning in. This episode is officially a wrap on season 2 of Raven Knight's Nostalgic Podcast. Oh my god, I can't believe it's finally here. I want to wish you all a very magical blessed and beautiful holiday, no matter what you celebrate, whether it's Yule, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or even Boxing Day. Season 3 will begin around, if not later than spring of 2025. Until then, have a happy new year. Bye!